Thank you for tuning into the Sports Peninsula podcast. Coming up, we're continuing our 2026 NFL Draft prospect coverage with a focus on the interior offensive linemen, better known as the guards. This is a critical position, and this year's group of prospects is solid, with perhaps a few day one options as well as plenty of day two options in the top 20 of this year's class. The Detroit Lions do have some interior linemen in place, but it remains to be seen what some of their roles will be. We'll once again cover our top five and a few dark horse prospects that we encourage viewers to keep an eye on coming up next. Now, here is your Sports Peninsula team. Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Peninsula podcast. My name is Dave Jasinski Drew, joined by Coach Andy Shield, as always, my partner in crime here at the Sports Peninsula podcast. And we're talking about the guards today, the interior linemen. And it's important to note for Detroit Lions fans, certainly, it's March 2nd that we're talking about this. And, Coach, we had a few things happen this morning, didn't we?
We did. Chairman Holmes called point of order with that gavel and had some table slamming to do and a few things to announce bright and early today, as the Lions have indeed moved on from David Montgomery. I'll be the first one to say that potentially it sounded like he refuted that when we gave you the offensive tackle preview, which was recorded yesterday, March the 1st. March the 2nd, David Montgomery is no longer a Detroit Lion. He is now a member of the Houston Texans. And, with all that being said, David Montgomery is a great human being and was a great Detroit Lion. There's a lot of melancholy fans. There's a lot of people. He was deep within the heart of this group of one priders and endeared himself to town here. Gave us a really nice Instagram post on his way out. But he wanted something a little bit different for himself, and the Lions gave him his first request. And lo and behold, Drew, we get ourselves an interior offensive lineman. Juice Scruggs. What do we know about Juice Scruggs?
Well, we know we covered him in 23 when he was coming out from Penn State in the draft. And you can check that out, folks, on our YouTube channel if you want to go back in the archives. Yeah, we knew he played center at Penn State, and he ended up playing guard, initially right guard at Houston, and then in 24 he moved to center, and then I don't know because we don't follow the Houston Texans that close, but then he moved to left guard. When the trade was made, it was announced that the Lions got a 5th round pick, and I was just like, But that was
rushed the judgment. They did. Jeremy Fowler, kudos to Jeremy Fowler. He did good. He knew what he was talking about with Montgomery not, with something going on. He knew what was going on. But Schaff and those guys, they got it wrong, Drew.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, they mixed up because Houston had made an earlier trade. They traded a tackle. The name escapes me at the top of my head, but they got a 5th round pick for it in that deal, and it kind of got meshed together that the Lions got Cleveland. Yeah, they got the 5th round pick for Montgomery, but in fact, they got a 4th and a 7th plus Scruggs for Montgomery. Now, case in point, go back a couple years. What did the Lions get for DeAndre Swift? Similar skill set. I mean, I like Montgomery better, but Swift's a nice back. They got a 4th round pick, I believe, from Philly. And that was it. So to get a 4th, a 7th, and Scruggs, who, Coach, as we were talking this morning, we were texting each other, it's like, you think he might be playing center? And all of a sudden there's Birchie. About a few hours later, folks, hey, look, he's a center.
The data would show that. I mean, his NFL data, Pro Football Focus, is a data-based and data, they make all of their grades via data and analytics and film grades too. But it's pretty steadfast. And he was the 15th ranked center of 2024. Graham Glasgow was the 28th ranked center this past season. So, just right there, if you get 2024 Juice Scruggs at center, you have a massive upgrade. Is it Frank Ragnow? No, we weren't likely to do that unless we were able to get somebody by the name of like Lindenbaum and that would still be at the top of his ball game. That's just how good, Frank Ragnow was for the Detroit Lions. That being said, though, Drew, we're not sure. We're not sure. Is he going is he going to be a starter or not? Well, that wasn't the only news of the day, as the Lions also parted ways with last year's starting center and former starting left guard, former starting right guard, Graham Glasgow. They decided to release him today, and he is no longer a member of the Detroit Lions, Drew. What were the cap savings there?
I believe it was 3.2 million for Glasgow, coach. When you look at it, at face value, I mean, we're Graham Glasgow fans, but at the end of the day, I mean, we weren't sure if maybe he was coming back. He's likely in the last, he's in the last year of his deal. He was at least, and then at the end of the day, we weren't even sure if he was going to actually come back and play. But right now, I mean, it looks as if he is, but he's been waived, he's been cut. So I don't know. It's actually 2.88 million, coach, I believe, is what they're
Pretty
gonna,
modest.
yeah, I mean, it, it'll help you get a couple of those draft picks signed. At the end of the day, is what it's going to end up doing. But yeah, I mean, yeah, he had one more year left on the deal, and so there it is. It's just
So therein lies the roster fit for Juice Scruggs.
Yeah,
he takes Graham Glasgow's slot on the roster. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean starting center? It could. It could. Does that mean utility man, first man in at guard or center? It could. It could if the Lions still are aggressive in free agency at the center spot, or they do indeed draft a center. And you can also check. Feel free to like and subscribe to the Sports Peninsula podcast and take a look at our center preview. We went through those guys, which they did have formal meetings with 3 of our top 5 centers previewed. I believe Mr. Alou, Mr. Slaughter, and Mr. Coogan all had formal sit-downs with the Lions at the Combine. So things are brewing, folks. Things are brewing. And Drew, how about you get us going here and count us down at the offensive guard position, a position that the Lions have been linked to. And Drew, is this a need?
Now that's the tricky question. On paper, okay, you've got Ratledge at right guard starting, right? You have Mahogany still on the roster at left guard. He started, and he's very good when he's healthy. Again, when he's healthy. We were talking about this before recording. That's the key phrase right there, when he's healthy. You've got Miles Frazier, who was hurt last year, but when he did play late in the season, showed he could play. So he's in the mix.
And now
Juice Scruggs. So we know, and he's a proven commodity too, but again, a good player, but we don't really know what the Lions, how they view his role. So you've got 4 guys that I think the only thing we could safely say is Ratledge is the right guard. Pretty safely say that. Left guard and center are up in the air. I don't know, coach. And I mean, there's some guards that if they're at 17, and we're going to talk about them, there's a decision to be made, because it's not necessarily a bad thing to draft a guard if you're the Detroit Lions at all. And again, could Miles Frazier, will Scruggs be the center? Could Frazier be that guy? We don't know. And I don't even want to talk about Ratledge moving. That's not, it's too much.
It just doesn't feel like they need to do that. It just doesn't feel like they need to move Ratledge. When you've got a Rubik's Cube type player in Juice Scruggs, when you have a Rubik's Cube type player in Miles Frazier, and you have some, like he has given us a nice little litmus test over at left guard when he's been able to stay over there, Christian Mahogany. And, there are some people, there's centers coming on into the market by the day being released by teams. And there's some quality guys in the draft. Do they look at a guy that can play guard? And there's a slot. We don't know. Maybe we have the starters. Maybe those, because again, in that lens too, we do have the tackles solidified at least for one more year.
Yeah.
At least for one more year. So there is a slot somewhere in the interior offensive line. Is that a starting slot? It could be. Could it be a rotational or a depth piece or a developmental piece here in the draft? It could be. Drew, let's start talking about some guards. Why don't you count us down?
Yeah, let's we'll talk about them right now, and once I can actually cue this up. I'm having some technical difficulties, folks. Here we go. All right. So basically, here we go. Top 20 at starting from the bottom right corner. Ethan Onienwa, number 20 out of Ohio State, the Ohio State University, and at number 19, Giovanni El-Hadi out of Michigan.
And Sterling Heights Stevenson High School.
And Sterling Heights Stevenson High School. That's right. I know you've talked about him a lot, Coach. Charles Jagushaw out of Notre Dame is at 17. At 16, Thomas Rimac at Virginia Tech. Walter Parks out of Clemson at 15. At number 14, we have Micah Morris out of Georgia. 13, Brian Parker II, and we talked about him at the tackle spot from Duke. He's been heavily rumored to be moving inside either guard or center, so hence he's on this list. Next on the list is Kobe Baines out of Kansas, and then also Fernando Carmona out of Arkansas, and then at 11th, Billy Sharruth out of Notre Dame, and then at 10, Jalen Farmer out of Kentucky. Number 9, Jeremiah Wright out of Auburn. Jaden Roberts out of Alabama at number 8. DJ Campbell out of Texas at number 7. And Armaj Reed Adams out of Texas A&M at 6. And then our top 5, Coach, Bo Stevens out of Iowa. Kalen Rutledge out of Georgia Tech at 4. Chase Bisantis out of Texas A&M at 3. Emmanuel Pregnan out of Oregon. And then Olaiva Vega Ioane from Penn State as our number 1 guard. He goes by Vega. He is a stud, and he's at number 1, Coach, and that's who we're going to talk about first. So let's jump into that. Vega Ioane, offensive guard out of Penn State, 6'4", 330-pound junior. He's a Graham Washington native. He goes by Vega, like I said, and he snuck onto his high school team as parents prioritized academic first in his household. So he had to sneak around a little bit and do his thing, but I think it paid off in the end. A 2025 All-American last year, a 3-time All-Big Ten guard, 44 games played with the Nittany Lions, and he started in 32 of those. He's allowed no sacks and only 1 quarterback hit in the last 2 seasons. That's impressive. 1,800 reps at left guard, over 1,800 reps at left guard, nearly 300 at right guard, so he can play both. He also had some reps at center at 17. He also played a little bit of left tackle and right tackle in his career at Penn State. This is a versatile, big, tough guard, Coach. Your thoughts on Vega?
He didn't play a ton of reps, but he played every single offensive line position for the Nittany Lions and settled in and became the top, left guard in the Big Ten. And lo and behold, he kind of ranks out here with the, in draft, most draft circles as that lead left guard. That lead guard on the board. If we can get to the strengths and weaknesses there, Drew, let's take a little bit more. With Big Vega here, 6'4", 330. So you got a real thick anchor, real strong NFL ready pro body there, and thick anchor. He creates movement. He's a guy he's going to be a great double team partner, great postman on a double team. That's going to be a guy that can kind of help a center or a tackle, and you do some grade some road there with big Ioane here. Big physical guy. He's a run blocker. He likes to get out there and get on the run. He likes to latch on and move and go for a drive, and that's the kind of football player you got with him. He's prolific. He's phenomenal pass protector at Penn State. He's got great numbers. He gave up very, very little in the pass game there. And a lot of it is because he's got devastating, hand displacement. He gets great displacement. He's big, heavy-handed, devastating football puncher. And that really helps you in those pass sets. And that'll also help, when he latches on to grade the road and move some people in the run game as well. We talked about his body mass. He's got all the body mass he needs at 6'4", 330 heading into the draft process. Real good, on picking up blitzes and stunts. He's played a lot of football, and he's moved all over that offensive line. And he offers, some really, really interesting versatility here, Drew. I tell you what, if the Lions were to take an interior offensive lineman, he fits the description. Because he's a primary left guard that can do the rest of them. And yes, this is a guy maybe you could think about, okay, we are going to turn him into a center. You could do that too.
Absolutely.
Big Vega Owane here is somebody I think could be you could reckon with here. Again, I don't think they're going there. I think they're going defense at 17 now.
Mm-hmm.
But I like them. I like Vega. What do you think there, Drew?
I would not be unhappy in the least bit if they took him at 17. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to go that direction because there's just needs at other positions, starting needs, and they do have a starter on the roster. Now, again, though, we have our doubts about Mahogany because he can't stay healthy. I'm sure the Lions might have that as well. It would make a lot of sense if they took him there at 17. He will not be there in round 2. I believe this is, if there's a first round, I would say day one shoe-in, this is the guy. Yowane is definitely the guy. He's just got it all together. I would not be upset at all. I know, again, he's not. This isn't a skill position. The guards are probably one of the least sexiest positions to talk about, if we could still say that. But they're critical to your success. And Lions fans, certainly in the last 3 years, ought to damn well know that. So if Iwane's the pick, celebrate, because he is going to. I mean, think about having Penei Sewell and Yowane on your line for the next 5+ years. You got to love that. But he's got some things he's got to work on too, though, right, Coach?
Oh yeah, he's kind of your base zone base kind of blocker. He's not a great puller. He does not climb well to the next level. He's a base guy. He doesn't screen well, and the Lions do those things, but there's ways in which he can be stay at home, and one of which those ways is playing at center. You don't have to do as much of that kind of stuff. So it's almost like he's destined to do that. It's almost like he's destined to do that because then you're not then he's not scheme poor. Because if you need guards that can move, well, he's not your guy. But which does lend to the greater concern: does he have enough functional athleticism? Because it's just enough. He doesn't have much more than that. So I mean, there are some things that he does not bring to the table, as an NFL athlete. Mm-hmm. So he's pretty scheme. He's not the most scheme versatile prospect. If you're talking about a guard, he's just not. He's a big, thick bodied guy. That bend and that sitting down in that depth can rise up a little bit and get some high pad level at times, which is never going to do anyone any good. I just wonder if the NFL athleticism is going to be an adjustment for him. It certainly was for Tate Ratledge at times. It certainly was for Tate Ratledge at times. He adjusted very well and had some very good games too. But the elite players kicked his ass. And that could be something that Vega Owane battles a little bit himself and learns the ropes that way. He's a better pass protector than a run blocker, just solely because he's kind of just a one-on-one kind of rope, base, mauler, double team guy. He doesn't climb well. He doesn't pull. So he's a much better pass protector, but for Big Vega's defense, it's a passing league. So that's the skill you better do better than if you're going to do one better than the other, that's the one you're going to want to do. But Drew, in the end, I am going to say no on Vega Owane to the Detroit Lions. I'm going to say yes to Vega Owane as being the first guard probably taken off of the board, because you're not just drafting a guard. You could be drafting a Pro Bowl caliber center.
Yeah.
And that's why, once again, we got to think about it. I think that'd be a trick up the sleeve there. You get him working with a great guy like, Coach Hank Fraley, whose son is now a Michigan State Spartan. And guess what he can do? Play both center and guard. So, I don't think the Spartans are quite sure. He's starting at one of them, but they're not sure exactly which one yet. So, I mean, because he's good at both. So I mean, that's something that you could have with him. But Big Vago Wane Drew, I think he's going to be the first guard, and and for all intents and purposes, interior offensive line taken, unless a guy like a named Jennings Dunker or something like that would go ahead of him for some reason.
Gotcha. Yeah, you're right, Coach. I mean, if there's a scenario where the Lions were to trade back in round one, I think he's more in play then than at 17. I would agree with that. Yeah, I mean, if they see him as a center and they think that's going to work, it could happen. I won't rule it out, but I don't think the odds are great that they'll do it. But again, it's going to depend on where they see him and how and if he's on board with that. And if I remember correctly, when the Lions drafted Frank Ragnow, which was a surprise a little bit, I know we thought Harold Landry was going to be that guy that year. But Frank was starting. They had him starting out at left guard, although the plan was always to get him to center. And I believe just his rookie year was that was the case, and then he moved to center, and rest is history. But yeah, I mean, there's always that possibility, and so he's Ioane is a very intriguing prospect for the Lions, certainly because of that. But he's going to be a very good football player for a long time in the NFL, regardless of where he lands. Who do we got at number 2, Coach?
We've got Emmanuel Prognon from the University of Oregon, another offensive lineman, designate, but this guy's more of a guard, not a center. 6'5", 318-pound redshirt senior. He is our number 2 offensive guard prospect. Hails from Denver, so he comes from the Rocky Mountain and the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado. Transferred from Wyoming and USC, so Emmanuel is a bit intrepid. This is a young man that has used the transfer portal. He said, "Beam me up, Scotty," a couple of times. Started out over in Wyoming and was a Cowboy there, and went off to a great career. Then went to USC. Really, he was a nice player and starter there. But that wasn't the fit for him. He wound up for Dan Lanning up in Oregon, and in his career, he started at 51 out of 52 games, at 3 different schools. Impressive. So all in total, Emmanuel Prognon's a seasoned veteran. 2-time all Big Ten selection. Yes, Big Ten selection. Because he's played the last 2 years for USC and Oregon. So yes, he is a 2-time all Big Ten selection for USC and Oregon, which is so weird to say. 225, he's an All-American this past season, at guard, 3 career sacks, 12 quarterback hits, and 1,900 pass reps. So he's an outstanding pass blocking numbers and over 3,200 plus reps as an offensive guard. Emmanuel Prognon, Drew, this guy is ready to rock and roll here as he enters the NFL career. 6'5", 318. It's a nice frame to work with, man. This is a good-looking player.
He's a real good-looking player, Coach, and I've certainly been paying attention to him on day 2. Although I'm skeptical whether he'll be there at 50 for the Lions if they were looked that direction. But lots to like here, and I'm gonna start out with what we do like, and that's he's a very strong physical hand fighter. You can see, I mean, he's got a nice wide base. He's a good proportioned athlete. Often you'll see like some of the tackles at times. They'll be top heavy. Really thinner legs and a big upper body. And I know at times that helps the tackles, but at guard, interior line, you want to have that thicker, bigger anchor. And Prognon's definitely got it. But to be a hand fighter, a physical hand fighter too inside, that's huge. It's a good strength for him to have. And he presents good functional athleticism. He creates movement. He's a strong run anchor. That's so critical. Another prolific collegiate pass protector. Again, it's great. He can do both. And that's the key. And is he a little better at pass than run? Yes, at this point. But he's a prolific pass protector and has a strong run anchor. He leverages well towards the perimeter. He exhibits good functional movement skills. Again, athletic. He's heavy. He's got strong hands. He has good pro football punch, and he really stonewalls bull rushers. This guy's a brick wall at times, Coach. Watching the film and watching some of their games, Emmanuel Prognon's a very, very good football player. Your thoughts?
He brings a lot of the same traits to the table as a guard that Vago Wane does.
Yeah,
a lot of the same traits. He's built very, very similarly. He's a little taller. But good thick, run base, but is really a pass protector first. So I mean, he just doesn't offer a ton of versatility in regards to position versatility. He's a guard specifically, but I mean, which is not the end of the world. I mean, he can be trained to play right or left guard. That's not the end of the world. He likely would be able to do both. That said, though, what are some of the limitations, Drew? We're not talking about a first day player. I don't think. If he did, he would be sliding in at the very, very end of the first day.
Yeah.
But what are some of those things that probably have him in day two territory?
Yeah, that's a great point, Coach. And he doesn't have elite athleticism. He's a very good athlete and a big, strong guy, very good football player, but not an elite athlete. He's shown some susceptibility to a well-timed stunt or blitz package, so he's got to work on that. He's got to be able to recognize a little sooner, a little quicker. He's got to work on that. Not likely to offer much, like you said, Coach, in the way of position versatility. You're getting what you get. I'm drafting a guard. I'm getting a guard, and that's okay. I mean, you're not often drafting wide receivers and envisioning them as running backs or per se. I know it happens, but let's face it, most positions you're drafting a guy for that specific reason. Interior line is there's that element of versatility. Same with the defensive line as well. That will certainly help you. Emmanuel Pregnan is a guard. He can struggle blocking in space as he advances to the second level. We talked about that a little bit with our tackles as well. So that's something he's got to get better with. And that leans to the fact that he played in a lot of pass-heavy offensive systems. So that's what he was really focused on. And again, he's a prolific pass protector. Got to get better there. And he can lean and lose leverage and balance as a run blocker. So, again, that's got to improve. I think those issues move him likely into the second round on day two. But the upside with Emmanuel Pregnan is so great, and his ceiling is so high that I agree with you. You make a great point. He could slide into the late day one, like the picks 30 through 32 area there. Yeah, I think that could happen very, very easily. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I just think just watching the film, the displacement that Vega Owane can get is a little bit different than Emmanuel Pregnan. And Pregnan can bring his hands too. Mm-hmm. He has got good, strong hands. He is not quite the puncher though Vega Owane is, and that's gonna win for Vega earlier in his career, and it's gonna allow him to get a little bit more displacement. That's the one thing that he does quite a bit better, in my opinion, in my view of looking at it. But Emmanuel Pregnan's played in so many substantive games. In his career for both Oregon and USC, mainly for Oregon, this past season. But just the amount of time he's played football. I mean, 51 out of 52 starts. I just think you're getting a guy that you could start, depending where he goes. I do think it's day two. And I think it's very likely, in the second round. Pending where he goes, he's a starter. Mm-hmm. You have a plug-in, a guy that can start right away. So you can plug in there and start. So I think I don't know about for Detroit. I just think by the time we're going at fifth, I don't think we're going to be. Now we have picks 118 and 158 and or one something like that in the fourth round.
I believe so.
I don't think he's going to be a fourth round pick.
No, I don't.
So unless we do some moving, I think he's going to be playing for somebody else. But he's going to become an NFL starter.
I think if they had the option of moving him inside the center potentially, I think that would tilt the scales in the Lions' favor, obviously, and that would make him more enticing to them. Even though Owane doesn't necessarily have that, but he certainly has the skill set to do it. that is a plus for anybody to have that kind of versatility, like we said. So I completely agree with you. I think he's a day 2 guy, second round guy, and more than likely before pick 50 for the Lions. And even then, at that point, I don't see them going that direction because they wouldn't necessarily have the option to move him inside the center. So that's how I see it too, Coach. But it's going to be interesting to see where he ends up. Our number 3 offensive guard prospect is Chase Basantis out of Texas A&M. He's a 6'5", 315-pound junior. He's a 4-star prospect from Ramsey, New Jersey, and a Don Bosco prep alum. He played and started in 36 of 39 games at Texas A&M, had over 500 reps at right tackle as a true freshman. Talk about versatility. 2023 freshman All-American and freshman All-SEC player, and he was All-SEC player last season for the Aggies as well. And he had over 1,950 reps at left guard, right tackle, and right guard. That's versatility there, Coach. That makes Chase Basantis a very interesting prospect.
And damn it all that we don't have a 3rd round draft pick. Yeah. And I'm not so sure, though, a guy like Chase Basantis doesn't go into the 2nd round. It is not somebody you couldn't talk about at 50. He's not somebody. I think the Lions actually did meet with him. Okay. I think they did speak with him at the combine. So this is a player of intrigue here. 6'5", 315-pounder. He's kind of a football, blue blood coming out of Don Bosco prep there in the East Coast, one of the football factories, in the New York, New Jersey area.
Yeah.
And he pretty prolific player, 36 out of 39 starts for A&M. This is a real dog here, Drew. Getting to some of those strengths that we like to see here. He's demonstrated some great versatility, which, he's played both guard and tackle, right guard, left guard, and right tackle. And 6'5", 315, he does have a frame that you could put out there at offensive tackle a little bit. So if anything, Chase Basantis, early on in his career is going to catch on and play as a rookie, potentially as a utility man. There's a guy that can play along the line. He's a block finisher. He blocks to the whistle. This is a guy that, is an engaged run blocker and a guy that plays football the way it's supposed to be played. And that's from snap to whistle. And, when you have a player that can do that, you typically have a player that can do his job or her job, be it all as it may. He's been a run blocker, though, Lonnie and Pugden. He's better. Yeah. He looks better. He can climb. He can do some of those kinds of things. He can pull. He can get out and screen a little bit. He's a little more versatile of an offensive lineman than Olavedega Owane and Emmanuel Pugden. He is.
Yeah.
And I think there's some different things to like there that I like more. And a lot of it's within that run game. He'll battle and to the end. He's kind of that old school grit offensive lineman, which that's a synonymous word under this current regime. That's the type of football player we want in Detroit first. And he's got a great anchor. He can stonewall a bull rusher even at 6'5", 315. Which is there's some length to his frame. He can stonewall. He can just complete an absolute stalemate with a guy that's going to try to run right through him. That's not going to happen. More times than not, that's not going to happen. Chase Basantis is a real hombre, Drew. This is a guy that's an NFL football player for certain.
Yeah, and I like his toolbox, so to speak. I mean, to be able to play that many positions, like we were talking about Pregnan. I mean, if you ask me, I think Pregnant's ceiling's higher just because I think he could be a more dominant guard. But Basantis could be a very good guard. He also could be a very good tackle. And I love the fact that he's a run blocker first, and he's very good at it. That's huge. I think that, just my opinion, Coach, I think there's more nuances to run blocking and their timing and the versatility you got to have and athleticism you got to have to play guard. I know tackle you got to have that quickness and handle those quick edges. Man, you got to be able to handle the I mean, a 350-pound, 360-pound D tackle when you're pulling, to try and then you get past that and you got to hit the 250-pound linebacker in the second level to be skilled and strong enough to do that. That just takes a hell of a lot, man. And this guy's got it, but he does have things to work on, right?
He does. He does. And probably why we see him third is that he is a much better run blocker than he is a pass blocker at this point in time, which we have the other two prospects, Awane and Pregnan, are kind of the other way around. Yeah. And it's the passing league. This is a passing league. If you can't pass protect, you can't be out there.
No.
And that is a bit of a question mark. Not maybe long term, because he's certainly going to develop, and we're not so sure that he's going to be futile at it. Mm-hmm. But that is something that's got to work. It's got to get better. Advanced pass rushers can really get in trouble. He can get worked, and some advanced stunts and those kinds of things as well. He needs some refinement. He's too quick to attack with hands. And once you do that with an advanced pass rusher, they're just going to climb right over the top of you or shoot your gap, one way or the other, and they're just going to take advantage of you. When you start to become a hand fighter as a pass blocker, you've got to be able to fight hands. But if you are the person bringing that kind of fight, typically those guys lose battles in pass blocking, Drew. And what happens is then he gets countered and he clutches. It's what's he gonna do? Of course, mm-hmm. Well, that's gonna get a lot of yellow flags. So mm-hmm. He can do the lunge and ling thing a little bit too, and kind of be off target, which means he can kind of play a little aggressive, and lose technique that way. But he's got to work. He's got to work on things as a pass blocker, Drew. Is it prohibitive for Chase Basantis? No, it's just a clear area of weakness, one of which he needs some coaching on and needs to get better. It also could disqualify him for ever being a pure form starter because he does offer great position versatility as well. Do you want Chase Basantis on your team? You absolutely do. Is he somewhat of a luxury pick? If you're the Detroit Lions at this rate, it sort of feels that way.
Yeah.
It sort of feels that way. I would love to have him, but I think we just picked him up, Drew, in the form of Juice Scruggs.
Yeah, you're right. And that's where it's at. And the fact that, let's face it, you put Pregnan out there, maybe he'll struggle in the run game and you might have some issues there, but he's not going to get Jared Goff killed, right? You can't, like you said, you cannot have anyone out there that can't pass protect. And again, we're not saying he can't, but we're saying it's definitely an area of concern and an area he needs to work on. And I think he's going to be a fine player, but at the same time, it's a luxury pick, like you said.
He's super physical.
He's super physical, but the Lions just, to be honest, if the situation at safety in the secondary in general wasn't as is, because you kind of knew the linebacker situation, you knew the D-line situation, and even the O-line for the most part, you kind of expected that these would be positions they'd have to address this year just based on contracts. But the injuries in the secondary and the issues back there changes the game. Yeah, I don't believe the Lions have the luxury of making a pick like Basantis, and it's certainly on day 2, and let him basically percolate for a year and hope that in year 2 he's going to start. You better have a damn good plan. You better see it through. I would prefer them, if they're going to draft a guy like that, I want it to be a tackle, because we know Taylor Decker at the most will be in the line with the Lions for 2 more years at the most. Then he's a free agent and likely then retires. I just don't see it being a fit with the Lions, but I see him potentially being a very good football player and someone we talk about 3 years from now saying, hey, I remember when we talked about him in 26, all right? But, good, very good football player. Very good. So we'll see what happens with him. Who's our number 4 guy, Coach?
We have Keelan Rutledge from Georgia Technological University, otherwise known as Georgia Tech. 6'4", 330 pounds. If that sounds familiar, he's the same exact size as Ole Vavega One. So he is a biggins, Drew. And he is our 4th ranked guard, senior out of Georgia Tech. Royston, Georgia native, so he's a local boy. But he came from Middle Tennessee State. So that's where he started his career at. And he earned freshman All-Conference USA and was an All-Conference USA football player for Middle Tennessee. So he had a great career and a great run there. Then came back down to Georgia for Georgia Tech. And, all he did was become a 2-time All-ACC selection for Brent Key at Georgia Tech. So he is, a really, really highly decorated football player. All-American this past season. He started 43 of his 48 games at both schools. So early on, he did have to cut his teeth a little bit. And it also speaks to a bit of an injury. And we'll get to that here down the road that he did endure. But 2 sacks, 4 quarterback hits, and 19 hurries in his last 1,400 pass reps. So he's really played some really good football as of late, Drew.
Yeah, I mean, Middle Tennessee State. I actually worked with a gentleman, Terry Tarpley, played there back in the day at Middle Tennessee State, and it's only an hour north of the Georgia border. So I lived in Clarksville for a little bit, as you know, Coach, about 15 years ago. It's been a while, but yeah, good school. And it's impressive though what Rutledge has been able to do, transferring to Georgia Tech, and then really stepping up his game big time. I that I've seen, and certainly on film, and then the way he's been ranked over the last couple of years, he just keeps climbing the ladder. Lot to like, and then with his strengths, we really like. He's got a pro-ready physical profile. Like you said, he's very much like Ioane, 6'4", 330 pounds. He's pro-ready and pro ahead of this draft, and he's likely going to. Not likely, he's going to have a hell of a shot at starting wherever he's drafted. Not a guarantee, not a shoo-in, but he's going to have a shot. Very resilient. He overcame complications. He had a near fatal car accident, and to become an All-ACC selection in the same season. Coach, I wasn't even really aware of that till we were prepping for this, but that's serious business there. But again, to come back from that and then be an All-ACC selection the same year, very impressive, shows the kind of resilience this young man has. He's heavy-handed and aggressive. He's got a hot running motor. Got to be careful with that, but you definitely love to see the aggression, and you like to see the little mean streak in a player, especially in the trenches. It's not a bad thing. A great down blocker and combo partner in gap schemes. You got to like that. He's another battler to the whistler. You get that hot running motor and a guy that's going to battle to the whistle. I mean, that's a football player right there. A heavy pro-ready anchor, and he's got a nasty, gritty blue-collar style to him, that type of offensive lineman. Coach Keelan Rutledge has got grit, as we like to say out here in Motown now, since Coach Campbell's been on the scene. What do you think?
He is very, very similar physically to Ole Vega Owane. He really is physically, in his frame, real dense, real big, thick-chested guy, big wide-bodied guy. He's just a natural-born guard. There's a build for a guard. Keelan Rutledge certainly possesses that. And there is no one tougher. I mean, he is tough as nails, physically and mentally, because he was in trouble. He was in a very bad car accident, one that did not cost him a ton of time necessarily, but it was not good. It was not good.
The mental aspect of that,
and yeah, there was fatalities in the accident, and he has persevered and prevailed through that. So there's a lot to like. There's also some clear athletic discrepancies and a little bit of where we are with things as compared to Emmanuel Pregnon, Vega Owane. And really, he does not offer the same kind of versatility that Chase Pasantis does. But I like Keelan Rutledge. I really do. And he's definitely getting drafted. I don't know if somehow he slips into the fourth round, and if he does, then that could make things interesting. But I would say second to fourth round.
Yeah, I think that's real safe, and I agree with you definitely. And the reason why we think that, well, he's shown more effort than consistency for the most part. He can lose his technique, and again, that you couple the aggression and hot run and motor, that's the tendency that can happen. So he's got to be careful. He's going to have to watch that, harness that in a little bit. But you don't want to lose it, but you got to keep it under wraps. And it's like anything, fatigue, high pad level, got to watch it. Better in run phase than pass at this point. We talked about that with Basantis just a little bit ago. So that, again, pass protection, it's a passing league, like Coach has said many times, and it's true. He's got to improve there. He doesn't offer the position versatility. He's been a right guard. Could he play left guard? We don't know. He hasn't. So right now you're getting a right guard. Again, not a bad thing. If I need a right guard, Keelan Rutledge is a very nice prospect to have on your team. Not the most fluid mover at guard. So again, not super athletic, but he's a worker. But he's definitely not a natural athlete. Hands can get claspy and clutchy when that surge and at the within surge and at the second level. So again, that comes to the more effort than consistency and losing technique. He's got to be more a little sharper in terms of his technique and then just in his focus. So he needs some refinement and development in pass setting and blocking. Coach, I guess it comes down to, so I want to ask you, this is a young man that's very coachable and can be coached up. These issues here can be coached up. Does Keelan Rutledge strike you? Would you be confident in saying Brad Holmes had his name called? Would you be happy with Keelan Rutledge in Detroit?
No, because we went to the state of Georgia and drafted a right guard by the name of Ratledge last year. So I think we're all set. And I just don't think we need to have our depth right guard. I think we already have that too, in the name of Miles Frazier or Juice Scruggs.
Yep.
I don't think Keelan Rutledge is a fit for the Detroit Lions. If we did not have Tate Ratledge, if we were a year back, I still wonder if he's he does not offer you any positional versatility. And really, with his movement skills being rather limited, he doesn't give you a lot of scheme versatility either. So what he does give you is a tough kid that is, if he's what you want and what you need, then he's what you're getting. And you're going to be all set because yes, he is. I am destined to believe we're going to see him as a starter in the NFL.
Yeah, he's definitely got the skill set.
He certainly does. It won't be here again. I think we're talking a second to fourth round pick, depending on where he is valued. And he brings so many, great intangibles to the table as a player, physically, and culturally, and in regards to what you might like to have. He's again, if Mike Onwenu was departing New England, Vrabel would love this guy, and what they like to do and those kinds of things there. What I think they're going to like to be in Tennessee, and they do have an opening because Kevin Zeitler's not returning there. It doesn't appear to be.
That's a good point.
So, he could, stay relatively close to home there. So Keelan Rutledge is going to find himself a fine NFL home. He's just a very specific player.
Yeah, and then I think that's what might move him into day three, because to have that be more of a niche player, there's just other needs for teams, and then there's more value in the versatility, and that's what would hurt him. But like you said, Coach, if there's a team that absolutely has that right guard need and he's there in round 3, even late round 2, well, yeah, absolutely, probably won't lose getting them. Keelan Rutledge is going to be a good one. Our number 5 prospect to round out our top 5 is Bo Stevens out of the University of Iowa. He's 6'5", 315 pounds, and he's a senior out of Blue Springs, Missouri. I've been there quite a few times. I'm aware of that Blue Springs, Missouri. Been there for my work, actually, Coach. So
Perhaps mom or dad works at that work.
it's very possible. You never know. Nice town, though. 2025 All American and a 2025 All Big Ten selection last season. He started 35 out of 42 games at Iowa. He did miss 7 games with a leg injury in 2023, hence the time off there. Never allowed a sack in his career at Iowa. He had over 650 reps at right guard and 1,300 reps at left guard. So we do have versatility here with Bo Stevens, Coach. He's from the University of Iowa. And we know what they do there. They run and they block, and they're very good. And Bo Stevens is part of that lineage. Talk about him.
Yeah, what you like about Bo Stevens, he has some great frame there, and he's got a little bit of length to go with his width, and this is a very athletic player. We're going to come to we'll look at that a little bit more when we talk about strengths and weaknesses. But I mean, look, Drew, he never has allowed a sack.
That's great.
And Iowa's they run the football there,
yeah.
But I mean, they're evolved. I mean, they aren't 3 yards in a cloud of dust single wing offense. They're not using Amos Alonzo Stagg's offensive playbook. They throw the football there.
Yeah, there's some folks named Kittle and Laporta and Hawkinson and even Fant
and you can keep on going right.
There's 4 very good tight ends in the NFL from Iowa.
So I mean, we're not talking about a chopped liver guy here. So I mean, when it comes to the pass game, so I mean, there's a lot to like. And is it fair? Do we dare say elite pass protector? I mean, it's a fair argument. He hasn't allowed a sack in his career. And he's a guy that, just watching film and, what was great to look for some of these guys are these Big Ten run throughs. And you can see they have it labeled Iowa, and you can just watch Iowa clips nonstop. And, to watch how he communicates pre-snap. He was doing that a lot. And sometimes centers are asked to do that.
Yeah.
He was doing it as a guard. He was taking care of things on the left side, in regards to, communicating pre-snap about, gap responsibilities and whatnot. So that's really impressive and something that, that's next level stuff. And as a result, he is one of those, he's a really good, stunt and blitz guy. He can pick those up. He can see what's up. He can kind of get things communicated and get the protocol initiated for blocking rules. He does offer some versatility. He can play either guard position. And for that reason, Drew, I think there is a slot for him here. I think he is one of these people because at his ceiling, he's our starting left guard and potentially a Pro Bowl caliber one. That's why you consider him more than maybe some of these other gentlemen that we've talked about.
Yeah.
Because he can take on a bull rusher. And that's that's something that we struggled with last year. It was surge. He can take that surge on and stonewall it. And he's got the physicality to do that. He likes to grade the road. He's a midway. He's a Big Ten offensive lineman. He's a run blocker. And truly, it's just about he has the best. And we have some really impressive pass blockers and some really impressive pass blocking numbers in this draft, Drew. He is nearly perfect. He's nearly perfect in his career. It goes without saying. Bo Stevens is one. He is definitely one to look at. I don't know at 50, and I don't know if you need to go to 50. But this is a guy that's a real impressive one. Real impressive player.
Yeah, I mean, and again, that's what we were talking about with Rutledge. He's strictly a right guard and really a mauler type guy. And Stevens has that versatility to play both guard spots for sure. I don't know if he could move inside. He certainly has the intelligence and the physic and the size to do it. He fits the part. I don't know if that's an option, but the fact that he has that versatility, like you said, Coach, to me, yeah, if the Lions were to look towards Bo Stevens, yeah, I mean, the only problem is they're not. Right now they've got a couple forced now, right? So with the Montgomery trade, so to me, um, I could see them possibly, if they liked him that much, to say we're moving up to go get Bo Stevens in day 2 on round 3, and then that kind of tells you, okay, it looks like Juice Scruggs will be the center. More than likely. Of course, things can happen on day 3 and then change everything or free agency. But yeah, I like him a lot. But he's got some stuff to work on.
Well, the one thing that comes just to mind that should, as Lions fans, and the woes that we've had the last couple of years, especially to offensive line, really the last 5 years. He missed 7 games in 2023 with an ankle injury. They've done a pretty, if you can go scour the internet, and maybe if you have access to the dark web, you can find out exactly what this ankle injury is, because it's pretty, it's not disclosed out there very, very easily. But it's something that has created issues. It's been lingering. He has missed time. He shows up in injury reports often with this ankle, and doggone it, do we want to bring in a guy that is going to have that kind of an issue when he comes here? Because he's a modest functional athlete. He's not, he doesn't bring dynamic athleticism. We've talked about some better athletes. We've talked about some better athletes in this position group. And how do you see that? Well, the numbers don't lie for themselves. I mean, he's just not as explosive or as quick as some of his fellow prospects. And he's probably pretty maxed out in his frame. I mean, if you bulked him up too much more, you're really going to even make that athleticism even more modest. Of course, you wouldn't want him to lean out much. There's not any room to do that. I mean, he's 6'5", 315. He's in and around exactly where you want him. Yeah, I just think some high caliber explosiveness and some elite, speed and that kind of thing is going to give Bo Stevens some struggles, especially early. If his pad level can get a little too high at times as seasons progress, that's going to be an issue, and he's going to get taken advantage of. There's going to be some times where he does not, maybe that he's probably not going to have that perfect passing record that he had at Iowa. Do I think Bo Stevens winds up the Lions? I don't. Watch exactly that he does now, because I feel like okay, now we're talking about a 3rd round pick here, Drew, and I we don't have one. So I mean, they would have to, like you had said, and you articulated it perfectly. They'd have to probably use those 4ths to move up into the 3rd to get him. Because I don't know exactly where in the 3rd. He could be going like really early 3rd. And folks, if people like if they want to go off of his performance data, he's probably going in the 2nd round.
Yes,
and that's very, very possible too. And again, Bo Stevens is a Lion if they make some trades and acquire more capital in the first half of this draft.
I personally, if not for the injury concerns, I'd have him at number 3 in the group. But because of that, it's just. But now, thinking about it this way, if I'm an NFL team, I'm the Lions, I'm pretty confident he's going to go 4 or 5 years. But the Lions have had some really, Onzarike, right? Kirby Joseph now. There's been a couple of guys that have really, and even Mahogany and Frazier and Wingo. These are all guys that they've drafted even on day 3, but they have that injury history, and they so far haven't done anything to refute it. So it's a little buyer beware here, but I like Bo Stevens a lot, and like you said, if you go by the stats and you go by his pedigree, where he's from, where he played, take him all day long. But that ankle's got to be sound, and you better get like someone real sharp looking at that ankle to make sure it's good. I think this is the kind of prospect, and I certainly don't want. You'll hear about things right on draft day, and all of a sudden, a report came out, this was found, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, why is this guy on here in round 6? Well, here's why. you hope that's not the case. So if that's not the case, if he gets a real clean bill of health, man, I think day two, like you said, is a possibility. I know we got some dark horse candidates to cover here, coach, and I'm starting it out here. Billy Sherrouth out of Notre Dame, 6'4", 305-pound junior. He's out of Campbell Sport, Wisconsin. He was a four-star recruit out of high school. He started 19 games at right guard until a sprained MCL ended his season last year. Now, he was named a captain in 2025 for the Fighting Irish. He did play both sides of the ball in high school and has a track background. Love a dual sport athlete, and certainly love the fact that he played both sides of the ball in high school. So he knows the techniques he's going to be seeing. That's a huge plus for him. He does understand how to defend pass rush techniques well. Another huge feather in his cap in this passing league that the NFL is right now. So he can play both guard positions and does have some experience at tackle. So you've got versatility. He gets movement in the run game. He's got a strong anchor and pass set. So this is a really sound player, but he's got more of a tackle physique. He's a mauler with a high football IQ, and he's a physical leader. Being a captain, being named captain like that, that says something when your teammates recognize you. He's not really tested at tackle, so he could struggle against the speed edge rushers. So he does have the versatility, but it's at tackle, it's a little unproven. Needs to play with a lower pad level at times. So this isn't a fatigue thing, this is a technique thing. That's got to improve. He's not a natural athlete, and really zone blocking schemes are not his forte. That's great if you're a Lions fan because they're a gap offense. So that's a good thing. But you've got to be able to handle it. And Billy Stroud's going to have to work on that because who knows who's going to draft you. And zone blocking, and he's got the physique for zone blocking, so to be a lighter guy. So he's got to work on that. Coach, your thoughts on Sherrell?
Yeah, he really did some climbing during the recent processes. His processes has really been supportive for him. Billy Schroff definitely has climbed the ladder. He has definitely gone from a surefire day three player to potentially someone that could flirt with day two because of really what he looked like in a lot of one-on-one drills. I mean, he really showed out a lot, and he showed out a lot as a pass protector, which was really good to see because that's something that he could be his he showed great anchor at that at Notre Dame. And he showed that he can move a little bit, but that athleticism is going to be really put to the test when you're playing against the elite athletes coming into a prospect game like that. And he really looked great, very much like Sam Hecht, the center prospect from Kansas State.
Yeah.
So with that being said, Drew, this is an interesting prospect.
Yeah.
I like him as a day three prospect for the Lions if he's a day three player. I think he may be climbing himself right onto the fringe. Yeah, he's got some frame to put on. He's got a little bit, he's got some things he's gonna have to work on and get to a certain level in order to be, a dominant football player because he certainly has the ceiling to be a long-term starter in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with you, Coach. Day three. If the Lions took a flyer on him, it wouldn't be a flyer. I mean, he's a pretty damn good football player. I'd like to see him add about 10, 15 pounds, though, to be honest with you. So but he's got the skill set. We'll see. This is a guy I really like here, Kobe Baines out of Kansas, 6'4", 315-pound redshirt senior out of Jacksonville, Florida. He played guard and defensive tackle in high school. So that's certainly another dual. Played both sides of the ball, just like we just talked about Shroud. And now he enrolled early at Louisville in 2020, but then he transferred to Kansas in 22. He started all 12 games at left guard in 2024 for the Jayhawks. He played right guard last season. He started in all 12 games there as well. So versatility again. All Big 12 honorable mention in 2025, and coaches and second team all Big 12 AP honoree as well. He did not allow a quarterback sack or hit in his time at Kansas. So, and now, mind you, he played both guards. left guard in 2024, right guard last season, still no hits and no sacks. Very impressive. He possesses great length and leverage at the point of attack, and he doesn't stop until the whistle blows, and he has a nasty streak to him. He's not super fast, but he moves quickly laterally. So he's got that little bit of twitchiness in his legs. He's got the little giddy up. But yeah, he's not a burner in the 40.
Functional athlete.
Yeah, he's a functional athlete. Exactly. Very solid in pass protection and in the run game. And he's durable and he's with position versatility. Now, there's some issues here. Likely won't add more mass at the next level. Is he about right, though? I guess it depends. I mean, he's going to have to be strong enough and have the strong enough anchor to compensate because he's going to be facing guys that are upwards of 350, 360 pounds. His tape is more impressive than his workouts. Now, typically that's okay because it's what matters is what's on the football field. But, you got to make sure that the tape isn't, I wouldn't say egregious, but a real concern. That's the thing there. So I guess it depends on what you see. I love what I see on tape from Kobe Baines personally. But yeah, he's not going to impress you at the combine or on his pro day per se. Can he, in terms of astronomical numbers, but can he develop into a starter at the next level? It's not, it's an uncertainty, coach, but I think he can. I really like him. But your thoughts?
I mean, again, we just talked about, Bo Stevens being the pristine pass blocking, the most pristine pass blocker in all of college football. And Kobe Baines comes in and, puts his Coors Light right in Bo's chest, tells him to hold it because he lo and behold, he comes up with some pretty clean numbers himself. No, I think Kobe Baines, I don't think there's a lot of frame to work on there. If anything, he may need to reel it in a little bit. But these guys are going to train, and there's an expectation as a pro athlete. I think he does offer some things that you could really like. And being that he's played both guard positions, this is a very, very similar prospect in a lot of ways to Bo Stevens. He's a very similar prospect. His functional athleticism is somewhat limited in those kinds of things. And, ultimately, is he athletic enough? Those would be the question marks, but sure. And I think the Lions have been linked a little bit to Kobe Baines.
It
makes sense if they were.
I'm seeing him a lot in in models and what have you around the 5th round, maybe 6th round. That's where I'm seeing him. So
well, that's right in the wheelhouse of the Lions draft because we're going to be about as active as anybody on day 3, or at least we're slated to be.
Exactly. You got a couple dark horses before we close this one out, Coach. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I went first with Jaden Roberts out of the University of Alabama with the Tide. 6'5", 327-pound redshirt senior. He's a 4-star out of Houston, and he played in the Under Armour All-American game out of high school. So this is a blue chip prospect. Runs a 5-flat 40. Started 34 out of his 46 games at Alabama. He did miss 6 due to some injuries. So he's not a perfect candidate here. 17 career pressures and nearly 800 career pass reps and about 1,500 plus reps at right guard. He can explode off the ball. Man, can he get going. And, he played, opposite Tyler Booker last year. So you have Caden Proctor on the left side at tackle. And you've got this guy on the right side at guard. Alabama had some dudes. They had some real good ball players because this is another guy, 525 bench, 805 squat. He's right with Proctor and just pounds weights. And he is a battler. He's a mean battler of a run blocker, exactly what you like. He's a good processor. He's got a very high ceiling. This is Jaden Roberts could be a really, really good right guard because he's still developing. He's gotten banged up a little bit. And that tells some guys right now, and some GMs are just going to back out of the room, as they should. And we've had a guy that we have here that is not oftentimes one of those guys that does back out of the room. He still wants to listen and see and take a little deeper look. And, he's got a tremendous pedigree because of doing that. Because of the injuries that Jaden Roberts has sustained earlier in his career, and for his propensity to get on an injury list or an injury report from time to time, should not preclude you from taking a look at him.
No.
Because he's a very raw prospect. The biggest question mark really is, okay, health. Health is going to be an issue for every player at some given point in time. Is he really only a right guard? Because if he is, once again, he's not a fit here because we've got our right guard.
Yeah.
But that means he's going to be a pretty position-specific player to go to a specific team. This is a day 2 draft pick, Drew. I do think Jaden Roberts is going on day 2. There's just too much ability there and too much strength and size to mess with.
I get reminded, and ironically, they're both Lions, of Christian Mahogany and Miles Frazier, because we really liked them on day 2 as well. And lo and behold,
we talked about them both in consecutive drafts.
Yeah, and they both slipped, and the Lions snatched them both up. So I like what we've seen from Mahogany is when he's playing, he's good. Again, when he's playing, and the little bit that we saw of Frazier was encouraging. So Frazier, we haven't seen much of at all. He was just a rookie last year. But Mahogany, we know, it's just been tough for him to stay on the field. Now, a couple of the injuries were, the leg breaking when the leg whip, the accidental leg whip happened to Hutchinson 2 years ago. So, I mean, that's bad luck. But it's also not
when he got drafted, right?
What's that?
He had mono when he got drafted, right?
Exactly. And he missed the first 75% of the season. But then when he got in, he played well. So that's how I see Roberts. So I could see him going day 2, definitely. The talent's there, but then I could see him going that route as well, slipping to day 3, and he could be an absolute gem for a team on day 3. And definitely not lower than. I would be shocked if he hit round 6, if there were that many concerns about his injuries. But I like him a lot too. Who you got next, Coach?
Well, the other player that I went with a dark horse, I'm staying in the SEC, and I'm going to go with Jalen Farmer, who's an offensive guard for the Kentucky Wildcats, 6'5", 317-pound junior. He's out of Georgia, out of the state of Georgia. He transferred from Florida. He was a Florida Gator to start his career. He's played in 28 out of 42 games between Kentucky and Florida. That does include 24 consecutive starts for the Kentucky Wildcats. So he's played the bulk of his career with Kentucky. 5 career sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and 20 quarterback pressures, and 850 plus pass reps, 1,600 plus reps at right guard. Thick anchor. You can kind of just tell right there, just through his stance and right there how he's seated, that he plays with a real heavy anchor. Offers great. He's a mover. He can move and pull. So he is kind of a gap puller type guy, which would be a great thing for the Detroit Lions. Once again, if we didn't need a right guard, but he is going to offer some of those movement skills to some team. He comes with really good athleticism. He really does. He's a great functional athlete, and that could lend them, and get him into a lineup pretty quickly. That could lend to getting him into a lineup pretty quickly. Heavy-handed. He's got pro football hands. He can really bring it. I mean, he is a guy. I don't know what, I didn't see any clips of him play at Florida. All of the clips that I watched were him with the Wildcats. And in Coach Stoops now, he's gone. He's no longer the coach in Kentucky. He just got picked up by Texas, I believe he's headed to. Mark Stoops really had them playing a real physical brand of football at Kentucky.
Yeah.
And he really Jalen Farmer really adopted that mentality. And he as a result, you could tell he was comfortable with it. He communicates similarly. He's really good with the blitz recognition and the front recognition. And you can tell he's a guy that adapts well to the film study and that kind of thing. So Jalen Farmer, Drew, is definitely shown a ton of things that are going to lend to him becoming a quality pro football player. Only played right guard. That's a limitation. He is not position versatile. So again, you're looking at and just how many guys that are just right guards are there? I mean, so some of these guys that are right guards only, they're gonna drift a little bit because after a while, you're not gonna be looking for a position like one position. That's something that that he's gonna have to grow upon because it's gonna become tough then. He can overcommit a little bit in some of the advanced stuff. He can get a little ambitious and reach and maybe get a little bit confused by some of the advanced stuff. He's a puller. He's really shown that he can pull. I don't know if it's how he has just he didn't show as much. And maybe it's just because they didn't ask him to do that much at Kentucky. Is a guy that can move as a climber or in the on screens. I do think there are some people that do wonder if he's a block sustainer, and maybe that lends to him struggling at the second level. But as far as kicking somebody out and base blocking, Jalen Farmer is a really, really good player. Really good player. Very good pass blocker as well. But another thing, as far as some dynamics to his, him and scheme, he appears a little limited. And he shows some fatigue in some games. You play in the SEC in that first half of that season, you're playing during the day. And it's some sweltering, humid, 70, 80, middle 80 degree, just, anywhere between, 70 and 85, 86 degrees hot, it beats you up and can eat you up. And there's times where he is shown to be a little high, high hipped and kind of a little standy a little bit with his pad level. So those are things they're going to have to clean up and get better. But Jalen Farmer, again, probably not a fit for the Lions per se. However, he's another one that they talked to. I know that they did. So there's somebody that they can believe that they can work with a little bit and do some different things. They'd have to offer the Lions some position versatility and some growth there. But I think there's a lot of quality there. Again, Drew, this is a guy I think that's going to eventually start in the NFL, at least for a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I see him probably day 3, but earlier day 3, like round 4 or 5, probably maybe round 5. But he's a nice player. Again, because like you said, the Lions are likely they're not going to go that direction more than likely. So because of the situation at right guard. But yeah, that is what it's limiting to the interior offensive lineman. It's so. I mean, it's so helpful to have that on your resume, right? I mean, that's true with any job, right? The more you have, the more versatility you have. Wow, you're a Swiss Army knife. But certainly, it's okay to be in singular in position if you're elite. And a lot of the guys we talked about are elite players, elite athletes. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the guards. Again, there isn't a Quentin Nelson in this draft, but it's a pretty solid draft, and I'm confident that the 9 guys we talked about, they'll all get drafted, and most of our top 20 will get drafted. I would have to think, Coach. But your thoughts before we wrap it up?
Yeah, there's a lot of positional players here. It seems like it's heavy at right guard.
Yeah.
The more versatility you offer in as a player, the better likelihood you get to be drafted. But we covered a lot of guys that just play right guard, and that's not to say that they won't be drafted. But I mean, we probably drafted the 3 guys that are definitely right guard specific. So if there's more right guards out there, yes, that could lend to being kind of drifting back and somehow becoming a UDFA when you expect it to be drafted in the 5th or 6th round or 7th round for certainly at least. But I think there's a lot to like. As far as the Detroit Lions, again, we've alluded, yes, there's a need. We've kind of beaten that horse a little bit here. Are there some players that would look good in Honolulu blue and silver? They certainly would. Are there some certain players that make a little bit more sense to the Detroit Lions? They do. I think the hardest thing to find, and it's also something that we struggled with the offensive tackles, Drew, and we talked about it a little bit, is exactly where.
Yeah.
Where would you draft these players? And, would they be available to you in and around that area? And it does kind of feel like, at least from our research angle and our look at things, and folks, we're just a couple of fans like you, like and subscribe, and hey, we really appreciate you taking a peek. We're no different in the end, but I just kind of wonder, where we're going to go with this position group, in regards to, do we need a starter, or do we need depth, or do we feel like we'll maybe make one more small move on free agency, bring in a veteran that's versatile, and we'll go that route. I don't know.
From my perspective, at tackle and guard, they would have a starter on their roster, the Lions. So you're looking, but if you're going to invest a draft pick this year, the Lions for this season, if it's a tackle, it has to be the next man up, and has to be the next guy that's going to take Decker's spot. Or if Sewell moves over and they go to right tackle, like we talked about on that show, check that one out, like we said, folks. But if they go guard, that's where, like you said, we don't really know where things are shaking out. I mean, the only thing we can say with some confidence is Ratledge staying at right guard, but left guard, I think it's Mahogany's job to lose. If he can stay healthy, he's a very good football player. I'm good with Christian Mahogany, but you got to have someone to fall back on. Now, getting Scruggs, that's nice. He can back up both guys at guard. And is he a center? Because he certainly had his best year in NFL in 24 as a center. So if that's the answer, well, that's great, because we're looking at having to spend draft capital on getting a center. And like you said, the Lions have talked.
We still might.
We still might. Yeah. So, I mean, and that wouldn't be a bad thing, because, hell, you'd have excellent. I mean, what depth you'd have on that interior line. And what happened last year, like you said, the bull rush up the middle. Brian Flores in Minnesota figured it out real quick. They blitzed the shit out of the Lions up the middle, and that's why they beat them twice. They had the guys that could do that, but that scheme, they just said, no, we're taking you up the middle. Why go after 58? Why would you do that, Coach? I mean, he's a stud out there. They went after the middle, and they exposed them. They're looking to shore that group up. And versatility is absolutely a key factor in that one, Coach. I know we've talked about that, but any last words before we wrap it up?
No, I think we've covered the offensive line already, and I do think the tackle position is the most fruitful.
Yeah.
I think center and guard both offer some nice football players. No guarantees specifically, maybe in either one of them. But they both are stocked nicely with some fine football players. Tackle, there's a ton of them. And, where does that mean? Obviously, this is a position group that needs to be replenished nonstop. I mean, offensive linemen and defensive linemen in the NFL, they're outside of MMA and maybe, certain skiing events and that kind of thing. I don't know if there's a more dangerous sport out there. I mean, it is brutal to you physically. We're talking 6'6", 330-pound men just pounding on each other. And it takes its toll. So, I mean, you do have to replenish these guys from time to time. Yeah. We're definitely drafting some people from these position groups that we talked about, Drew. We definitely are.
Yeah. And who knows what they'll do via free agency. They can get creative. They can move some money around. Like, players can convert money into signing bonus, and then it becomes guaranteed money, and then the team's able to stretch it out. So that's a win-win scenario. We used to see Stafford and Calvin Johnson do it a lot. back in those Jim Caldwell days when they were trying to get it going. We're going to see it again. I guarantee it. Well, let's wrap it up now. We talked about the interior offensive line. We talked about the entire offensive line. Check it out. We got a playlist out there, 2026 draft prospects. Check us out on YouTube. Thanks for liking the videos. Thanks for subscribing, folks. Hey, send us your comments. I mean, these are our opinions. I'm sure everyone's got one, but we want to hear it because a lot of your feedback last year was really good. So keep that up. We appreciate it. For Coach Shield, I'm Drew. Take care, everybody. Talk to you soon. This has been a Sports Peninsula podcast. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. You can also follow us on X as well as Facebook so you don't miss an episode. When you want to hear all about sports in the great state of Michigan, there is only one Sports Peninsula podcast.